I greet you all, my dear students. Last week, we had a presentation on the preposition. We established what prepositions are. We mentioned some of the types of preposition. We stated what function prepositions perform. We also added the errors in the usage of preposition. Today, we are going to talk about a very important aspect of the English language. It is important because every candidate is expected to answer questions that borders on grammatical names and function. That is why the topic is necessary to be discussed. We are talking about the grammatical unit, and what we will consider are the phrases and the clauses. The question, which usually requires candidates to give grammatical names and functions to certain highlighted expressions in the passage, has been the bane of many candidates over the years. This is largely because of a poor understanding of the grammatical components of the sentences or of the sentence, namely clauses and phrases, as well as how they work. So this lesson will enable the student, it will enable you to identify grammatical names and functions in sentences whenever you see them. You would also make reference to your past question papers and answer numerous questions on grammatical names and function. Then you would check what you have in the answer, whether they correspond with what you write. So I believe that this lesson will go a long way in helping you understand the concept very clearly. So what are the objectives of the lesson? At the end of the class, you should be able to distinguish between the phrase and the clause. You should be able to state the 6 functions of a noun phrase and clause. You should be able to mention the types of subordinate clause. You should be able to mention the types of phrase. You should be able to identify the 3 functions of adverbial phrase. And most especially, you should be able to identify grammatical names and functions in comprehension passages. Now let's begin the lesson proper. A phrase is a group of words without a finite verb. A group of words that makes no meaning. A group of words that functions as a single part of speech. The key word to understand in the definition of a phrase is that it lacks a finite verb. You may ask me, what is this finite verb? A finite verb is a verb that cannot change its form to indicate number, indicate person, tense, or time of event. A non-finite verb will not change its form to indicate any of the things I have mentioned. But the finite verb will definitely change its form to indicate number, person, and tense. I like to play, as an example. She likes to play. There is a change from like to likes in the second example because there is a change from the first person to the third person singular. But to play, as observed, remains unchanged. So that tells us that the verb like is a finite verb, and the verb, the to infinitive, to play, is a non-finite verb. So a phrase is a group of words without a finite verb. It makes no complete meaning, but functions as a single part of speech. So examples of phrases are displayed on the screen for you. The good woman is a noun phrase. Beautiful and healthy, an adjectival phrase. Last week, adverbial phrase has been called verb phrase. On the table, prepositional phrase. Those are examples of phrases. They make no complete sense, but they function as part of speech, single word class, depending on the component of the structure. On the other hand, a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate. In other words, a clause has the subject and a finite verb. It has a subject and a verb in itself. And this clause can be divided into two, the main clause and the dependent clause. You can call the main clause or you can call the independent clause. And the subordinate or the dependent clause. A main clause can occur alone and make complete sense, while a subordinate clause cannot make complete sense in itself, except it depends on the main clause. Now let's see some examples. Call the police at once if you notice anything suspicious. B says they hurried home because it started raining. C, if the good weather continues, we will sell tomorrow. Now the parts that are written in red, are the main clauses, while the part underlined for you are the subordinate clauses. They have to depend on the main clause to make meaning. Now, what are the types of phrase we have, or we are going to talk about? We have the noun phrase, we have the adjectival phrase, we have the verb phrase, we have the prepositional phrase, and the adverbial phrase. But of all the types of phrases you see on the screen, we are going to talk about only three: the noun phrase, the adjectival phrase, and of course, the adverbial phrase. The subordinate clause has three types: the noun clause, the adjectival or relative clause, and of course, the adverbial clause. So let's get into the detailed explanation of this concept. The first one is the noun clause, or it's a noun phrase rather. A noun phrase is made up of a noun as the most important word. The key word in a noun phrase will definitely be a noun. Some examples of noun phrase are displayed on the screen for your consumption. My old friend, the trader, a responsible student, some broken plates, etc. Now the key words in these examples are friend, trader, responsible, plate. Those are the key words, and they are all in the word class called noun. That is why they are classified as noun phrases. How could we test for noun phrases? In case you have a passage and the underlying part in the sentence is a noun phrase, how will you test for it? There are three things to do. The first one is a noun phrase answers the question who or what. It has the structure MHQ. M means the modifier, H is the head word, while the Q element is the qualifier. The modifiers are those words or the word that comes before the head word. The head word is the most important word, which must be a noun, while the qualifying elements are those words or group of words that come after the head word. Then the third one is the function a noun phrase performs. A noun phrase performs 6 functions. You are familiar with the functions of a noun phrase. A noun phrase can function as subject of the sentence, object of the sentence, subject complement, object complement, prepositional complement, and of course, inner position to a noun. Now let's consider some examples. The trader was friendly. Now the parts written in red are the noun phrases. The noun phrase in example A is the trader. The trader answers the question who. Who was friendly? And believe that you have answered that question yourself. And the answer to the question is the trader. So we have ascertained that the trader is a noun phrase. B. Shola came back with some gift. Shola came back with what? And the answer is some gift. So you see that the one in red in B answers the question what, and it functions as the object of the sentence, while A functions as subject of the sentence. C has two noun phrases. A responsible student is needed for the post of the head boy. A responsible student is the subject, and it answers the question who, while the head boy is what? A complement of the preposition of, and it answers the question what? Who is needed for what? And the answer will be a responsible student is needed for the post of the head boy. I believe you're following. I believe you enjoyed the lesson. You understand what I've just said? All right, let's see other examples. Some broken plates are on the shelf. What are on the shelf? Some broken plates. Noun phrase functioning as subject of the sentence. E. The new coach is a nice man. A nice man is a noun phrase that functions as subject complement. It completes the meaning of the subject. Who is a nice man? The answer is the new coach. The principal named my friend, the new representative. The principal named my friend, the new representative. The principal named my friend what? And the answer would be the new representative. And the new representative is the object complement. It is object complement because it comes after the object, my friend. The last one there says, Abuja, the capital of Nigeria, is located in the north. What is located in the north? And the answer is Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. And the part written in red is a noun phrase that functions in opposition to a noun. And that is to say, it gives more information to the noun that has been mentioned, which is Abuja. Now, I want you to use a new concept English. Turn to pages 21 and 23. You're going to see numerous exercises there, but I am very much interested in exercise 4 and 8. So you're going to work out those exercises and you're going to submit them when the time is right for submission. So I would refer you to New Concept English as it is displayed on the screen for you. Pages 21 and 23, exercises 4 and 8. The second one is an adjectival phrase. Like adjectival phrases are prepositional phrases that qualify or modify nouns or pronouns. In other words, adjectival phrases function as adjective. Now some examples are readily displayed on the screen. The man at the gate. At the gate is an adjectival phrase that qualifies the noun a man, or the noun phrase the man. It gives us information about which man opened the gate for me. Noun phrases answer the question who and what, but adjectival phrase answer the question which. You can say which of the men opened the door for you? The man at the gate. Which road did they take? They took the road near the market. Which wrapper did she wear? She wore the wrapper with blue bead. The other person says, which pen is mine? The pen on the table. Which cow did you see? Or which cow did I see? A cow with 3 legs. So you see the part written in red have answered the question which. And they are all adjectival phrases that qualify the noun respectively in the sentences. And the third one is adverbial phrase. Adverbial phrases are also prepositional phrases, but They perform functions of modifying the verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Adverbials answer numerous questions, some of which include when, which is time, where, which shows place, how, which shows manner, why, which shows reason, to what extent, degree, how often, frequency. It shows comparison, purpose, contrast. So for all the phrases, it is the adverbial phrase that answers the most questions. Now let's see how we are going to justify that with some examples. The interview was conducted in the assembly hall. Now I'm going to put you into a little test. The interview was conducted in the assembly hall. You can pause the video, and try to give the type of adverbials written in red in the examples that will be displayed on the screen, beginning from number 1 you have seen here. The interview was conducted in the screen or in the assembly hall. Our plane touched down at 8 o'clock. Write your name in capital letters. I shall come in the evening. He withdrew from school because of financial problems. She visited the library twice a week. Mary likes rice very much. The professor resigned on account of political appointment. You can pause the video and work those ones out. So now let's see which or how many of these things you've got right. So you tick according to the one you have right. Number 1, in the assembly hall, that is adverbial of place. At 8 o'clock is an adverbial of time. It answers when, while number 1 answered where. Write your name in capital letter, that is adverbial of manner. How is the question it answers. Number 4 is adverbial of time. Number 5 is the one that answers why, that is reason. Number 6, frequency, twice a week. Number 7, very much, to what extent, that is degree. And number 8 is reason. So if you got all of them correct, you mark for yourself. If you haven't, you make the corrections accordingly. Note that adverbial phrases that modify an adjective often follow that adjective, as the 2 examples on the screen display or shows. The woman looked frightened of the man. She was therefore ready at all times. Frightened is an adjective, ready is an adjective. Of the man and at all times are adverbial phrases that qualify the adjectives frightened and ready respectively. So that's a very good point to note. Now, away from the phrases, let's talk about the clause. Do not forget the distinction between the phrase and the clause, because it is your knowledge of the phrase and clause that would help you in identifying grammatical names and functions. The phrase, a group of words without a finite verb, but the clause would have a verb and a subject in it. And this clause performs similar function with the phrases. So do not expect a new function of a noun clause. But bear in mind, the same functions noun phrases perform, a noun clause will perform so. So, we are going to see, as they are displayed on the screen, the underlined parts are noun clauses. But you are going to pause the video and try to fix what function the underlying noun clauses perform for you. Pause the video and see how you can give the function of the underlying parts. Okay, now let's work it out. If you have scored them correctly, please tick it for yourself. Now, number 1, what the chairman proposed was not feasible. What the chairman proposed was not feasible. That is a noun clause that functions as subject of the verb. If you've got that, you tick it for yourself. Number 2, I believe that you will be promoted. That you will be promoted is a noun clause that functions as object of the verb believe. Number 3, the rumor was that he had died. Number 3 functions as predicate noun or subject complement. The underlined part is the same as the rumor. If you got that right, thumbs up for you. Number 4, I do not agree with what the doctor said. The underlined part, what the doctor said, is a noun clause that functions as prepositional complement. It is the complement of the preposition with. Number 5, the fact that she passed her examination made her parents proud of her. Number 5 is a noun clause that functions in opposition to the noun. The fact is the same as she passed the examination. And number 6, the fact that we tendered a formal apology makes no difference to him. That we tendered a formal apology is the same as the fact. So number 5 and 6 perform the same function in opposition to a noun. So you've scored all of them correct, so a very good resounding applause for you. Now, noun clauses are introduced by some words. And you should note that in the previous examples, you would see that what introduces the first one, that, what, and that are used. Those are markers, but they are not all. There are other words that can introduce noun clauses for you, as they are displayed on the screen for you. The words are that, whether, who, what, whatever, whoever, where, why, and when, etc. Where, why, and when are what, if I should ask you? They are relative. Relative what? I want you to complete it. Relative adverbs. They can also be used to introduce noun clauses. Now the next is the relative or adjectival clause. You can call it a relative or adjectival clause. A relative or adjectival clause perform the same function as adjective. They modify nouns or noun phrases, and they are introduced by relative pronouns and the relative adverbs. Examples of words that introduce relative clauses are the ones emboldened: who, whom, which, that, whose, when, why, and where. As examples will illustrate, the first 2 examples are the driver who had an accident was not injured. The parts written in red are the relative or adjectival clauses, but the encircled one are the markers, the words that introduce these relative clauses. The driver who had an accident was not injured. This is the girl whom we saw yesterday. So numbers 1 and 2 are introduced by who and whom respectively. Number 3, I like the food which my mother gave me. Which introduces it. Children who talk early are usually intelligent. I found the house where my sister lives. The test was fixed at the time when we were all free. He gave the reason why he resigned his appointment. The encircled words are the markers of relative or adjectival clauses, while the ones written in red are the adjectival clauses or relative clauses themselves. But they perform the same function, and that function is qualifying the noun or pronoun. See? Food in 3, children in 4, house in 5, time in 6, reason in 7, driver in 1, and girl in 2. All the words I've mentioned are nouns, and they are qualified by the parts in red. And the third one is the adverbial clause. Now understand that the parts in red in the previous slide are all clauses because they contain in it verbs. Do not forget the distinction between the phrase and the clause. Phrases will not have verbs, finite verbs, but clauses do. So there are verbs in the clauses, and that is what qualifies it to be called a clause. So adverbial clauses express time, that is when, manner, how, place, where, degree, to what extent, purpose, condition, concession, reason, frequency. And they are introduced by a range of subordinating conjunctions, and they are all italicized for you to see. After, before, when, whenever, until, and all other words that are displayed on the screen for you are words that can introduce adverbial clauses for you. Now let's consider some examples. The students bought the departmental journal because they were compelled to do so. I have underlined part and I have written some of the words in red color. The parts written in red color are the words that introduce adverbial clauses, while the complete part underlined are the adverbial clauses. So you are going to pause this video and provide the types of adverbial clauses as underlined on the screen. Okay, let's believe you have paused the video and you have worked them out. Let's see how we are going to solve the problems together. If you score them correctly, please do not hesitate to tick for yourself. Number one, the student bought the departmental journal because they were compelled to do so. Reason they bought was they were compelled to do so. So why? Why is number one. Although she was ill, she traveled to Abuja. Number two shows conversation. The person was ill, but she traveled nonetheless to Abuja. Number three, if I shall go home if I finish my assignment. If is condition, it shows condition. That's the only thing that will happen before I go. I must finish my assignment before I go. Number four, Ethan worked so hard, or worked very hard so that he might meet the deadline. So that shows purpose. So that shows purpose. Number five, I parked the car where it could be seen. That's place. Where? After we finished the food, the waiter came in to clear the table. That's time. That's time. So if you have assigned the correct type of adverbials to the ones in red or to the whole underlined part, please mark them for yourself, and a very big congratulations to you. So what we have said in a nutshell is that you need to follow the steps I have presented to you for you to be able to identify grammatical names and functions. It would be very disappointing if you answer other questions in the comprehension section and you fail to answer grammatical name and function question. To some, it is a monster staring them in the face, but to you, it should be very simple because of the tips I have presented to you. Ask certain questions. Check the functions the underlined word performed. Check the words that introduce the underlined words for you. As I have classified them, you would know that there are some clauses that are introduced by some words. You look for that word. If the word actually introduces those clauses, then you know where to classify them. We make reference to the slides you're going to see. I have mentioned the markers of noun clauses. I have mentioned the markers of relative clauses or adjectival clauses. I have also mentioned some words that could introduce adverbial clauses for you. So you do not have to forget those words for you to be able to identify grammatical names and functions. Now to leave you with something to engage you, to leave you with something to do, here is the assignment for you. Now the preamble says that you should identify the grammatical names and functions of the underlined part in the sentences below. There are about 9 sentences, and some words are written in red and underlined. You are to give the grammatical names of the words in red and also mention the functions they perform. So number 1 is displayed here. Number 2 and 3 are displayed on the screen. If social man is to be understood at all, he must be understood as a phenomenon in process through time. So the part underlined, you can see very well. So give the grammatical name of that part and also its function. 2, 3, and 4 are displayed on the screen. Number 5, you are to use your new concept English. I invite you to bring your new concept English now for you to use in the question number 5. turn to pages 132 and 133. You would see the column labeled Exercise 2. There are about 10 questions in that exercise. Give the grammatical names of the underlying part in those sentences and their functions. All those questions are got from the wide past question. So give the grammatical name and function of about 10 of them. The number 6, the underlying part is visible for you to see. Number 7, same. Number 8, very clearly written. And number 9. So give the grammatical names and functions of the underlying parts of the sentences in the assignment section. Then you can go over the presentation again for you to understand what you are to do to be able to identify this grammatical name and function. First, do not forget the distinction between a phrase and a clause. A phrase is different from a clause because of the structure. And you should be able to identify a phrase. If you see one, you should be able to identify a clause if you see one. So I would advise you go through this video many times for proper comprehension and study the notes carefully. They are well written and they are in detail. If you have any questions in the course of listening to this presentation, I welcome you through the channel the school has created for you. I am looking forward to answering many questions from you. Until we meet again, stay safe.